you stay. And I believe in the empty tomb and the stone that the angel rolled away.
Hello and welcome once again. This is Eddie Huff. This is Fresh Black Coffee. I've got my colleagues David Van Rizicum and Julian DeLeon running the board for us and keeping us straight. As I look over into the camera that David has set up, I just saw that. Hey, everyone. Excuse me. I do have to tell you, Dave, last week I was telling you about I had this deathly cold, or I was sick, but I was lying. Well, I was halfway lying. I did have a cold and still am suffering somewhat from it. Fortunately, I have not lost my voice.
There you go.
That's the good thing. Only a part of the voice. So in any event, the song that we play every week, in case anyone wants to know, it's called Creed. And the reason I haven't played it the last couple of weeks is because we had in post-editing, there was a problem with it. When we try to raise the level of our voices, the soundtrack distorts, so I haven't been using it. So hopefully this week, if you don't hear it, it's because the problem is still there and we're going to have to figure it out. But hopefully we won't have to do that this week, okay? But I did want to say about Creed, it explains, the reason I use that is because to remove all doubt about what I believe.
Absolutely.
What you believe.
Yep.
Now, Julian, I think he still has to grow into that belief, but it's okay. He's 14 years old, and so we'll give him time. I was 21, almost 22 before I accepted that belief. And for those of you out there, if you don't believe yet, it's okay. It's okay. Just ask God to show you the truth, and one day He will reveal it. That's what happened in my case.
And in Julian's defense, growing up Catholic myself, we started out confirmation was about 6th grade, and they eventually moved it up to 9th or 10th grade. So, that's okay. Confirmation's still coming.
With me, it was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got my confirmation at 10. You got your first communion, was it like 8? And then 10 was confirmation. But anyway, my favorite word, anyway.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on that. Well, you need to put a new buzz track in every time I say anyway or so, or it goes,
It means moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Yeah. Let's move on. So, moving on.
Yes.
This week, David, I'm not going to read from the Babylon Bee this week. I'm going to let you give us the latest Babylon Bee goodie for this week.
I was disappointed you didn't have one where you're busy with a lot of things. It's a big week, and so I pulled it up. It's it's part of SoonerPolitics.org now. So anyway, so here's the deal. The January 6th exhibit at the Smithsonian, soon to be open, lest we ever forget, has received some artifacts, and here are the top 12 artifacts to the January 6th exhibit at Smithsonian. Number 1, Buffalo Guy's buffalo hat. This will be displayed in full wax replica of a buffalo guy and diorama of the natural habitat grazing out on the plains. The American flag pants that Trump was wearing during the attack. It was an attack, don't you know? Number 3, the deadly selfie sticks carried by the attackers.
Deadly selfie sticks. That's good.
Number 4, Joe Biden's half-eaten ice cream cone. Yes, I think it's going to be a wax replica. Joe Biden himself. Speaking of ancient relics, and Kamala Harris has donated Joe Biden to the museum. All right, number 6, a tumbler filled with authentic AOC tears.
Don't you know goodness.
She was holed up.
Probably healing tears, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like prayer cloths, only healing tears.
Yes, and knitting Mima's reading glasses. Future generation get chills down their spine as they view these, the spectacles of a killer. Yes. The charred ruins of the Capitol that used to be. Yes. The barricades of police officers were voluntarily moved aside to let the people in, don't you know? We're not supposed to know about that. Yes, and let's see, the last couple of them, the 155 millimeter arterial shell that blew up and killed AOC, and Trump's authentic Lego models of the Capitol, White House, and Pentagon. So those are the Babylon Bees. Report on the artifacts going to Smithsonian January 6th exhibit.
Wow. Those guys, like I said, they push it. They push the envelope, don't they? I have a good one too. One, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Just the title says enough, and you'll appreciate this. To combat trans women dominance of women's sports, the Olympic Committee has added competitive childbirthing as an official sport. Competitive child. And as I put on it, beat that, you want to be women.
Yes.
Beat that. I'd like to see a trans woman do that one, enter that one. Because it's really sad, though. High school girls, college women.
Yes.
Trying to compete now with guys that are now women.
Yes.
That have not had an operation even.
Yes.
I just, I feel like a girl today.
I wonder if
I feel pretty. I feel pretty. So, yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if the word women is going to be replaced by the International Athletic Committee to be referred to as birthing people.
That's probably right down the.
That's what our White House refers
down the
to
pike.
as. Yes.
Oh, speaking of that.
Yeah.
The American flag.
Yes.
You saw it coming. I saw it coming. Several people, commentators saw it coming when they started destroying monuments.
Yes.
And the Confederate flag, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they say, we've got to get rid of the symbol of the Confederate flag, da. But as we know, it never ends there.
No.
That's not what this is about. This is just about unbridled anger and rage. They don't even know why. It's just rebellion, the spirit of rebellion.
Yeah.
It's actually a sinful, godless, demonic spirit of rebellion. Well, the latest thing now is replacing the American flag.
Yep.
It's not the rebel flag. It's not the Confederate flag. In fact, I never called it a Confederate flag. I used to have it on I used to wear it. You know what the Army field jacket looks like?
Yeah.
OD, olive drab, green, the olive green.
Sure.
Jackets, everybody, all soldiers used to wear.
Think MASH, RO. Yeah,
right, exactly. And they weren't camo. They were just a plain green. Well, my dad used to get them, and then he would give me the old ones. In fact, every Army brat had one of these.
Sure.
He wear the. Yeah. And so I used to have one of those. But I had somebody on the back, they drew a big black power fist on the back.
Yeah.
But on the front, I had a rebel flag.
Yeah.
Which now considered the Confederate flag.
No.
It's not the rebel flag anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be, hippies used to wear the Confederate flag as a sign of protest.
Yes.
It was rebellion. It was a flag of rebelling against the establishment.
It's called the rebel flag.
Yeah, it is the rebel flag. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and actually, if you look at it, it's not even the official flag of the Confederacy, because you probably have seen the actual official flags of the Confederacy, which are mostly white. But the rebel flag became this symbol, and so it had to be purged and erased from our memory. But we knew that those statues, because after Lee, which they finally did, you probably heard just yesterday, I heard on the news that they finally removed the statue of Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville, the one that created the big stir. They finally took it down. Yeah. Which is, to me, a tragedy. It's sad.
Yes.
But regardless, the statues were just the beginning. Yeah. It's just the beginning. They wanted those statues. Obama used to say, and his wife even more, Barack does not see the world as it is. He does not see America as it is, but he sees what it could be. Yep. In other words, we don't like what we see. We don't like the America that we have. We're going to destroy it and create a new one.
That's exactly it.
And that's what's happening. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to reshape the entire nation, the entire concept of the United States of America. Yeah. But, and this gets to critical race theory as well, because if you know critical race theory has come from critical theory, which basically, I'll say devolved, not evolved, but devolved into just pure criticism. It's just being critical. It's a critical spirit. The Bible talks about a critical spirit. It will destroy you.
Yes.
Root of bitterness, critical spirit. Yep. You got to get rid of it. It'll destroy a church. It'll destroy a family. It'll destroy a city, a town, a nation. It'll destroy the world.
Yes.
And that's what we're seeing.
Mhm.
This critical spirit. Don't call it critical race theory, just call it a critical spirit, a demonic critical spirit, and it has to be constantly fed. We saw the greatest example is what? The French Revolution, right?
Mhm.
They started out going against the monarchy,
Mhm.
but after they got through with the monarchy, Marie
Yes.
Antoinette and others suffered the same fate.
And the man who invented and put into use the guillotine was actually put to death on that same guillotine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what and what gets me is that people don't see this. The corporations,
Mhm.
Nike, Coca-Cola, you name them,
Yeah.
that are supporting all of this critical race theory and everything.
Yeah.
As I like to call him, the thoroughly modern General Milley.
Yeah.
He's another one.
Yeah.
He'll be the first one to go. Oh,
Yeah.
we got to get rid of him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to fall prey to that is just ridiculous. But I did want to get back on this thing that the American flag has been now, not the Confederate flag, not the rebel flag. The American flag is seen as a symbol of oppression, of suffering, of everything bad. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is just really bad news. And that's where things are headed. Go ahead, Dave.
I wanted to speak to the anecdote, the garlic, if you will, for against the vampires of critical theory. The anecdote is prayer. And I tell you why. Because when you pray, that is an application of your faith, believing your prayers are answered, which brings about in your mindset a belief that things are going to improve. Well, to a critical theorist, they don't want to believe things are going to. They believe we've got to destroy.
Right.
And as soon as we're done destroying that, we're going to find something else to destroy. We're done destroying the Confederate flag. Now we're going after the American flag. You see, there's no end to it.
No.
And my friend Chuck Strom used to say this when we were fighting over education funding at
State
the state capitol.
representative.
Yeah. Chuck said, just simply ask them, what will be enough? What will you be happy with? They will never answer that question.
It's because enough is just a little bit more.
Yes.
Always.
That
more.
is exactly it.
Yeah.
So to my conservative friends, when you're up against a critical theorist, somebody's turned down, simply ask that question. What would you be content with?
Yeah. And you're right. They will never answer it.
Right.
They can't answer it because they don't know. It's an itch that can't be scratched.
Yeah. Yes.
It's this wounded spirit. It's a wounded spirit, a root of bitterness, as I say. And there's never enough. Once you go down that, I'm going to use a spiritual example since you've brought that up. By the way, remind me, I want to have one week. I want to have this discussion on prayer and praise. Yeah. To me, the praise is more powerful than the prayer.
Okay.
Do you remember Merlin Carruthers, the books, Prison of Praise, Answers to Praise, Power and Praise, and Answers to Praise? Those are 3 books that he was a former Army chaplain.
All right.
When I first gave my life to the Lord, and I was riddled with bitterness. I mean, I was just, I basically didn't trust white people as far as I could throw.
You were wearing a Confederate flag.
Right. It was the rebel. Yeah. Isn't that weird? Wearing a rebel flag
on a black man.
On a black man, but not trusting white people.
Yeah.
You know, I had the rebel flag on one side and then the black nationalist flag.
Yeah.
Oh man, we've got so many layers, as Donkey would say. We got layers. No, but because the black nationalist flag, that's something else we've got to get to.
Yeah.
You know, you got to get rid of the rebel and American flag, but let them proudly wave this black nationalist flag, the red, black, and green flag, in case you don't know. And let Vanessa Williams sing, instead of the national anthem, sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is the black national anthem. I don't know if you saw that on the New Year's thing. NBC got criticized heavily because instead of the national anthem or even, you know, whatever, she's singing the black national anthem, which is it's been known as, which is actually, it's a good song. It's just the symbol of it is just messed up. Yeah. But again, getting back to the original discussion of praise and the root of bitterness and prayer, and it is a spiritual thing. It is a spiritual battle. Yeah. And unfortunately, churches are fighting it in the wrong way. Yep. They're fighting it in the wrong way in 2 ways. One, by trying to resist with physical power, or the physical weapons, and secondly, those who want to appease.
Oh yeah,
That's the one. That's even worse.
That's
These
dangerous.
pastors that well, we just have to be loving and we have to love these people into the kingdom, and if we accept this and start accepting critical race theory and appeasing all of these, like I've said, my church, we have this one guy. He's always wearing these. He's gone from Black Lives Matter, but there's some other pretty Black specific. Black Wall Street buttons and black this, black that, black that. It's always black this, black that, and Juneteenth.
Yep.
You know, it's not helpful. That's
No.
not helpful because it will eat you like a Pac-Man.
Sure.
Like Pac-Man. It's just a little bit more, and you can never be woke enough. You just can't. You can't be woke enough. I'll tell you who I think. Well, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to. I love this guy. He's an athlete. He's a really good, well-known, probably today the most beloved active athlete around. If you took a poll nationally, but I'm not going to mention his name because as soon as I say that, his name will become dirt by somebody. So, David, I'm going to leave it there. But just to get back to the original gist of this, the whole thing of the attack on the flag, critical race theory, all of that, it's just sad. I mean, it's sad, and it's destroying our nation. And we do need to discuss the spiritual aspect of that. But we've got so much ground to cover today. Yeah, I mean, this could be a 3-hour show, and we would do it. I mean, we could do it well, 3 hours, but we're going to keep it nice and short. Julian's over here saying, "Why not?" Yeah, he wants to get paid. He wants to get paid for 3 hours. Right. I know what you. Look at him. Yeah, Julian said, "You pay me." Yeah. Oh man,
what does Joe think?
Yeah, Joe. Yeah. We don't have that one queued up, but that would be a good. Pay them more.
That's right.
That's what Joe would say. Pay them more. He said, "I wrote the bill." No. Anyway, hey, let's move on from that. People, just look into all this stuff we're talking about, but it's true. It's happening. I want to recommend a couple of things to you. If you haven't, it might be hard to find, but if you do, I have a couple of copies myself that I can, sell you. I mean, they're cheap. You can get them cheap on Amazon. Merlin Carruthers, Prison to Praise is the first one.
Okay.
Unbelievable book. And honestly, when I first became a Christian, it's amazing how God just led me to these right books.
Nice.
That changed my life because just, you get saved, they want you to get baptized, and then all of a sudden, voila, all of a sudden you're going to be this great Christian, and they, okay, read this, and this. But to a novice, a person that's riddled with all kinds of stuff, guilt and animosity and bitterness and hate. I'm sorry, but if you don't have the right environment around you, it's just not going to do it. It's just words. You understand what I mean?
Oh,
It's got to be the two-edged sword. It's got to be the word and the spirit.
Yeah.
And too often we just think, well, the word, just read this. Just start at the book of John and read on, and then you'll automatically get it. Or we've got to get you baptized, like also you're going to come out of the water. Stuff like that. Yeah. It's more. People have different needs at different levels.
Yeah.
And through the grace of God, I was surrounded by a bunch of ex-hippies.
Nice.
Jesus people.
Yeah.
That just loved the Lord. And I was kind of in an incubator because that's all we did is read and share. And that's the biggest thing. We were able to share on a real level.
Yes.
On a real level, because we were all coming out of drugs, out of sex, out of, you name it. Yeah. We're all coming out of that. And so it took a while to really reshape our minds. Yeah. And I'm happy to say that almost every one of that group of people is still walking with the Lord today. Still, and we're still writing and encouraging and admonishing one another today, which is over 40 years.
Nice. Well, I have to say, even if you started on a maybe not so healthy path, I mean, for me, it was listening to John Todd's tapes on the Illuminati. Scared me into Jesus' arms, but I'm telling you,
okay,
it was the love of Jesus that really kept me in the family. It's really it's God's love. It's not fear. It's not an intellectual pursuit. it's a relationship.
Which reminds me, remember Chick Tracks?
Oh God! Well, John Todd was on.
Exactly. John Todd and what was the Mexican priest?
Oh, I forget. that.
Alberto.
Yes.
It was Alberto.
Yeah.
Those were all the Chick comic books and
Yeah.
all that. That was quite an era. Boy, we could go all kinds. You and I, we could go into all kinds of things. Backward masking.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, those were the days. Backward masking, all the stuff we got into. John Todd, by the way, disappeared. I think he had himself shipped out of town.
Actually, I found out he ended up in a mental hospital.
Yeah,
the rest of his life.
Well, yeah, he was pretty messed up.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because if God could speak through a donkey. Mm-hmm. He can speak through anyone, right?
Absolutely.
So you can't just throw everything John Todd said out of the baby with the bathwater, even though he was pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Mike Warnke, some of these people that had issues, but still they were used. It reminds me of the parable. It wasn't a parable so much where the disciples came to him. There's a guy over here that isn't with us, and he's talking about you.
Yep.
And Jesus said,
well, he was casting out demons.
Right, that's right. Name. In Jesus' name, he said, if he's not against us, he's for us.
Yeah, right? Because they're trying to shut the guy up because they didn't know him. He wasn't part of their clique.
Right. He wasn't in our church.
Yeah. That's just
he might have been a Catholic or even worse, an Episcopalian.
Where is this on our show notes?
Oh, I don't know. It's not that we have gone. People, thank you so much for bearing with us.
Yeah.
Because, and I know we're resonating with somebody out there. There's people that are having, that's how I feel. Anyway, let's move on to some more serious things.
That's true
Hunter
about the
Biden's
flag.
art.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Hunter Biden's art. Seriously. I mean, first of all, I don't believe he actually painted it. Now, they show this thing of him with this tube in his mouth in the paint. Have you seen that?
Drip art, I guess.
Yeah, but here's what's funny about the drip art. It's dripping. In that picture, if you notice, the paint is running all off the edges.
Yeah.
It's dripping off the edges. I mean, it's ruining the canvas, basically. Yeah. But when you see the other, it's all of a sudden, it's this beautiful art.
Yeah.
I don't believe, unless I see him painted, a video, uncut, of him actually creating this art. Yeah. First of all, I don't believe he's painting it.
Yeah.
Okay. I do not believe he's painting it. All right. That's number one. So let's say he is. Now, have you heard? They won't reveal who's buying these things at $500,000.
No, they wouldn't.
I think it's a fancy money laundering scheme.
Oh, absolutely.
Here's what's really funny about it, Dave. Just yesterday, as an insurance and financial professional, I have to do this continuing education. And one of the things we have to deal with is anti-money laundering.
Oh.
I have to be familiar with anti-money laundering policies and how, the penalties for it, criminal penalties, civil penalties, all those things.
Sure.
And what constitutes money laundering. What better way to launder money than to buy a piece of crap for $500,000?
Yep.
That's a way to clean some money there. So all of a sudden, Hunter has this $500,000. And if you add them all up, because I think they're going anywhere from $75,000 to $500,000.
Yep.
Maybe it will go up even more. It's a great way for them to all of a sudden, this cash arise. Oh, it's for his painting. It's for this. And then next thing you know, he's got $3-4 million.
Yep.
Where's that money come from? We don't know because they won't reveal the names of those people. So consider it or call it my suspicious mind, okay? My conspiratorial theories. I'm getting like, what's the guy from Texas that used to be popular? Had the show. I can't think of his name. He was a radio talk show host and Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah. He's still
I may be the new Alex Jones or something with my conspiracy theories, but that is one of my conspiracy theories.
Oh, he's bigger than ever right now.
Is he really?
He's in top 5 now in talk radio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even know that. See, I never listened to him before, so I just know he's been a controversial figure for some of the things he's come up with.
In fact, the day Trump was in town here last June, I spent a couple hours with Owen Schroyer, his second-in-command guy.
Oh,
it's a pretty solid guys. Yeah, we were talking at that time. I found a case of OAN shirts, One American News, and they were sitting right there in the middle of the road next to InfoWars booth. And I went over, I said, hey, Owen, these case of shirts are just sitting here. Let me move them over by you guys. If they come back for them, great, because OAN was here. And I said, they're probably worth some money. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, it's the same shirt that Mike Gundy got in all kinds of trouble for. And Owen, I listen, this is PG radio. I won't say what Owen thinks of Mike Gundy. He says, I used to think the world of that guy. He was a man's man as coach, right? But anyway, so yeah, the thing with Alex Jones is he's become vindicated because what they did to him, they did to Trump. They deplatformed him and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, that's what's going on there. I don't know. I've lost my train of thought now. I was going somewhere.
No. I mean, yeah, no. It's one of these deals where I was telling you that I was feeling I may be a bit conspiratorial because of my thoughts on Hunter Biden and his art.
Yeah,
that we don't know who's buying this art. We don't know what's going. We just know that there's a large sum of money coming in.
Okay, let me cite a source. Rush Limbaugh himself said, "If I can do it, it ain't art."
So you're saying if he can do it, it ain't art.
Yeah.
If Hunter can do it, it ain't art.
I mean, it's drip. That's all that is. Watercolor dripping on paper.
Exactly. I'm sticking with my money laundering theory.
Yes, it's exactly what it is.
Oh, I totally think of that. Let's move on from there to vaccines. I want to discuss vaccines real briefly. Why are the Democrats and the left so obsessed with masking up everyone and vaccinating?
Right.
It's crazy because even after you're vaccinated, they still want you to wear the masks.
Yes.
They still want you to social distance. I mean, it's insane. I mean, some of the stuff is ridiculous. My daughter lives in California, and they're still wanting the kids to come back to school, but they've got to be masked, and they want them vaccinated.
Right.
And I'm thinking, it's got to be over control. It's got to be. I mean, there's no other explanation for why you would want these kids to be vaccinated and masked if the incidence of child infection is so low. In fact, more kids committed suicide during the lockdown than died or were seriously ill from COVID.
Yeah.
That nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
You had many more drug overdoses than you had kids get sick from COVID.
Yeah.
But oh no, we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So we're going to make them wear masks. And the other side of the story, the big thing that the teachers unions want is to protect them.
Yeah,
well, you selfish so-and-sos. You should quit teaching. If that's your attitude, that kids are germ carriers or infectious parasites, basically, then you need to get out of teaching.
Yeah, they think the Department of Education exists for their career.
Yeah.
They're there just because we want our kids educated, but educating our kids become the lowest priority.
Right.
Yeah. I want to say this. I heard this morning, I forgot to make mental note of which state it is. They said, if they've got a vaccine card, we won't make them use a mask. But if they haven't got a card on file with us, they'll have to go the whole school year with the mask. You talk about stigma. Those are the kids that are going to say, I'm out of here. I'm either finding a private school or I'm homeschooling. Because to say, okay, those are the kids that we should all look down on as they're science deniers or they're anti-vax.
You know what those kids should do? Or the parents for those kids? They should make masks with a rebel flag on.
There you go.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
The kids are, okay, I'm wearing my mask, and it's got the rebel flag on it, in other words, serving notice.
Yep.
I will not play your game. I will not submit.
Yes.
Oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the other thing. Every doctor who's studied immunology 10 degrees will say natural immunity by actually suffering the virus, the sickness, and recovering from it far exceeds any inoculation through a vaccine. And yet they're saying, even if you've had COVID, come get your vaccines.
Vaccine, yeah.
And then keep wearing your mask.
I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I've actually said, if you're past childbearing age,
Mm-hmm.
then if you feel like you want to get it, need to get it, whatever, do it. But to me, anyone that has not yet passed childbearing age, if you still want to have children one day, I would not get it. Because I have this sneaking suspicion that there's birth control involved in this, population control.
Yeah.
That I think it's a conspiracy between here I go again with my little Alex Jones, channeling Alex Jones here, but that it's a way of controlling population.
I believe.
You notice we're giving it free to Africa, we're giving it free to India, these so-called countries that are high risk. I just believe that if you're able to have children still, I would not get the vaccine.
Yeah.
Now, older people that are past childbearing age or whatever, if you want to get it, then fine. And you've seen the studies, you've seen the reports that have leaked out about how it's changing the menstrual cycles of women.
Oh, yes.
And young girls in particular, and girls are having real huge problems with this. That just kind of confirms what I'm thinking. There's something more to it, the way they are so bent on forcing everyone to get this vaccine.
I will say, if for a mom who's currently in a pregnancy, it is such a trauma to your system, it could spur on a miscarriage just because of the physical stress. When you say childbearing years, I'd agree. Women, when that is.
Yeah.
Men, okay, about 45 and up, that's when I start saying, okay, depending on your overall health, it's time to seriously consider. Now, for myself, a couple of weeks ago, I took the Johnson & Johnson. The reason I believe that's so much safer is it's using the old-fashioned
vaccine, a true vaccine,
right? The annual flu shot type thing, whereas the other two, Pfizer and Moderna, are using a brand new technology we've never used before, and we decide to roll it out on the global population. And you can tell the government officials are actually preferring those. Remember, they didn't take them off the market, but they took Johnson & Johnson off the market for a short time.
Yeah, Pfizer, J&J.
They're trying to drive us over to the new one, which actually tells your body to create a new protein, which effectively could overproduce, and then they build up in your vital organs. And that's why we're hearing of heart problems. We're hearing of reproductive organs being, damaged by kidneys, other things, even brain issues. So anyway, don't want to go down the road too far, but
like I said, we could do 3 hours today. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and take a little break, and we'll be back after that. Hi, this is Eddie again. I wanted to talk to you real briefly about these commercials you're seeing with Joe Namath and others about your Medicare entitlement, the things you're entitled to. The latest one is Jimmy J.J. Walker. And what I want to recommend is do not call the 800 number. Find an agent in your town that can sit down with you and show you the differences, because there's 3 things that are important. And the main 2 are, will your doctor take the plan that you're taking? The second one is, will you be able to transfer that if you needed to? And we're out of time, actually, for me to talk about this, but I just want you to know that you need to be careful with buying these Medicare products and looking at them. You really need to sit down with a professional, not just someone at an 800 number. All right? And then we're going to continue in just a second.
And who do they call in Tulsa?
We'll get to that another time.
Okay.
All right, we're going to come back. That was a little clumsy, but it's okay. We're all friends here.
All right.
As I look over at your camera there.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for some time. I've kind of seen this coming. I want to discuss Bill Cosby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. there's a lot of consternation. A lot of people are upset that Bill Cosby has been let out of jail. But if you watch the news, it's not really telling you everything, the whole story. And what a lot of people don't understand is Bill Cosby was America's dad. Remember, he used to do the Jello commercials
Huxtable.
and Dr. Huxtable, and of course then he did those other commercials for Jello and he has now become in a way America's public enemy number one. I mean, you think, and these women are so upset and obsessed with getting Bill Cosby, but here's the real truth about everything. And I saw this coming several years ago. I believe it was 2002, Bill Cosby gave a speech at the NAACP convention. And in this speech, Cosby basically called out Black America.
Yeah.
And he told the truth. And ever since then, he dared to criticize Black community for its lack of morals, failure to live like civilized people. And of course, there was outrage. Oh, wait, yeah. What people like to say, in fact, I've run into this when I try to tell the truth about some of the immorality and some of the debauchery in the Black community.
Sure. The
total lack of, it's not just lack of morals, it's almost lack of civilization. We've almost become uncivilized. It's sad. But I've had Black people tell me, oh, we can't throw stones at our own people. We don't want, oh, you don't think they know?
Yeah.
If white people criticize Black people for certain traits, then it's bad. And so we want to keep it a secret but to me, that's actually admitting that what's being said about you is true.
Yeah.
Instead of facing it head on and saying, no, this is not us and it needs to change. So anyway, he was immediately attacked after his speech to the NAACP.
Yep.
And in that speech, like I said, he basically called out the Black community for its immorality, for its lawlessness, for its lack of respect. I have this the whole speech. If you want to get to it, go to AmericanRhetoric.com, and look up the Bill Cosby NAACP speech. I think it was in 2002. But Bill really nailed it. But I want to get to the deeper issue here. Oh, man, probably about 15 years ago, there was this biography of Hugh Hefner or something on about the Playboy Club or something. I can't remember what it was. And somebody was doing this thing. And they talked about the history of the Playboy Club in the Playboy empire at that time. And they had, do you remember the Rat Pack?
Oh, yeah.
Frank Sinatra.
Sammy.
Joey Bishop, all of those guys.
Dean Martin.
Right, Dean Martin. They were all in Las Vegas.
Yep.
That was their big hang, and they acted like frat boys.
Yep.
To disparage frat boys.
Yeah.
I am a frat boy, but anyway, or was. Anyway, but this was kind of like a Rat Pack 2, a more modern. All of the stars of the mid-'60s, Robert Vaughn was Napoleon Solo, wasn't he? Yeah, Robert Vaughn, Napoleon Solo, Robert Vaughn, I think, was Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Bill Cosby.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I'm getting them all confused. There was a Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah, let me just use the Man from U.N.C.L.E., I Spy, and there were a couple of other shows like that that were very popular in the mid to late 60s.
Yep.
And these guys all hung out together. And James Coburn was another one. That's right.
Oh, yes.
All of these Flint, remember some of those. But these guys all used to hang out at the Playboy Club. And I remember this one episode or one segment of this show where they were talking about this thing called the Grotto. It was the Grotto at the Playboy Club. And the Grotto, I guess, I don't even know what a grotto is, but I think it's like waterfalls. It's like...
I think it's an underground swimming pool at the Playboy Mansion in L.A. area.
Really?
Yes.
How would you know that?
I've read.
You read, yeah.
I read up.
Oh, you read, okay. So I don't even know what a grotto. I just pictured some
Actually, Mary
jungle
Fallon got engaged to her first husband at the Playboy Mansion.
In the grotto?
Yes, that was in Sooner Politics.
Wow. That's interesting. Okay. See, another little fact.
Yeah.
That one was free, people, by the way.
Yeah.
But So they were talking about the grotto. They were talking to Robert Vaughn and James Coburn, and I wish I could remember Robert Culp. That was the other one. And so they were talking to these guys, and they were all just speaking so wonderfully about. And Bill Cosby was one of the guys. He was that generation, Sammy Davis Jr. Their token black friend that everybody had. And so, but they were talking about the grotto, and what they were talking about was all the sex and all of the goings on that were happening in the grotto, and all the girls and this and that. And I remember Quaaludes when I was in college. Quaaludes was just a thing. Everybody was giving Quaaludes, taking Quaaludes, and giving Quaaludes, to girls, and even guys were taking them, which is like a devil drug. I mean, it's illegal now.
Would that be called a date rape drug?
It could be, yeah. It probably was. Because what it does, it actually almost, this drug you've seen where they give people and they're awake, but they can't do anything, where you're like almost immobile, but your senses are still there.
Doesn't Xanax kind of do that?
I have no idea.
Not Xanax.
I was going to say Xanax.
I had to have eye surgery about 10 years ago where they gave me this drug. They said, we need you to respond to commands and stuff.
So you were awake while they were...
While they were, working on my eyes.
Right.
Eyeballs,
Right.
So,
well, without going too deep into this, I just want to bring this out for discussion. This was very common in those days. And yet, none of those people were ever accused of anything. Well, most of them are dead now. Bill's probably the last one alive. But so all of a sudden, he gets accused of inviting women to his hotel room. Well, first of all, when you invite somebody to your hotel room, you should bring somebody with you, right? Just to protect yourself. I mean,
and let me turn it around. For a woman getting invited to a man's hotel room, what does she think is going to happen?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Yeah. So, exactly. So if you really want to be on your guard or whatever, you don't go by yourself.
If you're a beauty queen and Mike Tyson invites you to the room, I mean, come on. And especially when he says, wear loose clothing.
Well, okay, I don't want to digress. I want to stay on Bill Cosby.
Yes.
Let's stay on Mike's another whole issue.
Well, right, getting invited to someone's hotel room,
right? You would generally think that's not a good idea.
As my mother said, what good will come of that?
Right. So now, whether I'm saying Bill is a good guy, he's a philanderer, he's an adulterer, he's a this or that, that's one thing. But what I'm trying to get at is this: the reason he was set free. And this is what has not come out in the story. His attorneys and he made a deal with a prior prosecutor.
Absolutely.
That he would settle one of these cases with the women, where she got $3.5 million, $3.5 million. But it was a civil matter. They would settle it quietly and move on.
Right.
And if he admitted to doing this, giving a Quaalude to this girl and then having sex with her or whatever.
And my understanding is in district court, that agreement, barring the immunity, was actually certified and accepted by a judge.
Right.
Therefore, making it binding upon the United States and all state and district courts.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
So along comes a new prosecutor. He wants to make a name for himself.
Yes.
So he decides, we're going to disregard this. They leak it to the media. First thing they do. Then they go and bring him back in and have a new trial, a new deal. He's convicted and he's sent to jail.
Right.
Along comes the appeals court judge, says, you can't do that. It's a violation of rights.
You made
a deal.
Yes.
You made a deal. If this is the deal, everybody, all the parties sign on to this. You can't just come out, well, that was those guys. We're not going to accept that. No, you can't do that. Because like you said, it was a deal with essentially the state and the United States of America.
Right.
That this would not be held against him in the future.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to let people know that if they're not getting the full story, why the judge never said, oh, Bill, you're a good guy. You shouldn't have gone to jail because you're a saint, you're an angel. And it's because it was a violation of his constitutional rights, which should be afforded to everyone.
Yeah, let me break that down for everybody. Remember, when the U.S. Constitution was first presented to the 13 states, it was rejected unless, and the people came up with their demands. They had 12 originally, and it was finally agreed, okay, if you'll accept this, we will create this Bill of Rights by amendment. And the Fifth Amendment was your protection against self-incrimination. And that's bedrock to our nation. And that's why the fact that Bill Cosby's rights were protected here secures your rights and my rights going forward. If this wasn't acknowledged, it would be a strike against every one of us in our constitutional rights.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what's so funny to me because, or it's not sad. It's funny. It's sad in a sense because I see conservative talk hosts on Newsmax, on Fox, all these people upset that Bill Cosby was released because they've bought into this thing of the whole Me Too movement.
Yeah.
That this is more important to get this dirtbag
right
than our civil rights.
And those are dangerous people because they believe the ends justifies the means.
Right.
And we must remain, people of principle. That if we're going to miss a few people that maybe should do some time.
Right.
But it's more important, and our founders believe it's better to let a couple people go than to see a whole bunch more people wrongly persecuted.
As we do in China, Russia, all of those countries that we try to be different from. Right. So anyway, I just wanted everyone out there to get an idea of what really happened, what really went on there, to not just judge this on the surface like so many have.
Right.
And it's so funny to watch the faces because you had lawyer after lawyer after lawyer come on these programs explaining what really happened and why Bill was let go. And you could see these conservative talk show hosts and hostesses just, you could see that they didn't like what they were hearing.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't like a lot of things that I hear.
Right.
But the law is the law, and we have to accept. In fact, sometimes I used to say people have gone so far to the right that they're now left.
Yep.
That we want to accept the same things that the left does, but it's because our purposes are so much purer than theirs, right?
Yep.
So that's that. Okay, Dave. Now, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, we should have a drum roll here. Drum roll, please. Yeah. We're going to have this marijuana discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of last week's show, we discussed that I was against legalizing marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Call it medical, call it recreational, call it whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just against legalizing marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I say that as a former user of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I used to use marijuana. I used to use weed. And I have my reasons. But you then brought up the fact that from firsthand experience, people who you feel actually needed the weed.
Oh, yeah.
So I defer to you. I'm going to let you explain your reasoning, and then we'll discuss it from there.
Right. There are people that, for therapeutic reasons, are benefiting from it. And then there's also the casual user. And separate from that, there's the recreational user, the thrill-seeking person. But yes, for therapeutic reasons, I kind of break it down into four main groups. There are people who take it for pain. It is one of the options to opioids that is actually helping people get off their opioid addiction, especially for nerve pain. And then there's...
Wait, let me stop you there. Marijuana is not an opioid?
No, not at all. Okay. No, opioids come from the poppy, plant. Heroin, fentanyl. Fentanyl is actually a synthetic opioid and far, far more dangerous. So then there's those people that need it for anxiety issues, people with PTSD, people with panic attacks, generalized anxiety, number of things like that. There's people who take it for nausea issues, especially nausea associated with chemotherapy. A lot of cancer sufferers are taking it. And it's not just that, but it does calm nausea big time. And then there's, especially with kids, people with seizure disorder. Doesn't work for all of them, but for some kids, they're able to resume not only a more normal life, but actually continued brain development in toddlers because the seizures was interrupting their normal brain development their motor skills, thinking, reasoning, and stuff. Along with that is people with Parkinson's, part of the same thing in the shakes, because for some, not all, but for some people, marijuana actually gets rid of the shakes. And that's why we were talking about should there be some breathalyzer test, for people driving and stuff like that. The problem with that is some people with Parkinson's, the only way they can drive safely is if they have THC in their system. It's not a big group. But anyway, those are the 4 groups: pain, anxiety, nausea, seizure. So those are your therapeutic patients, consumers.
Okay. Now, my question is, why did we have to essentially legalize marijuana to take care of those patients?
Federal government. Because the federal government has this strong ban that the only way a doctor or pharmacist could get around it is they couldn't prescribe it. They had to recommend it. There is case law that a doctor was prosecuted federally for recommending marijuana to a patient, a specific patient, and the Supreme Court threw it out saying his ability to recommend something to a patient is actually his free speech rights.
Right.
And that's why it's called a recommendation.
Right. Okay. But what I'm saying is, on a state level,
yes,
we had medical marijuana law in effect prior to this. We did. We had a medical marijuana law.
How so?
That doctors could prescribe marijuana if they felt it necessary.
No, I don't.
Okay. We'll have to go back and look at you.
Okay.
You'll do your research. I'll do mine. And
Okay.
But to me, what essentially they did is, I always like to say there are 2 different categories of people that were really in favor of the new marijuana law here in Oklahoma, Colorado, everywhere. And that is the people who want to get high. And number 2, those who want to make money from those who get high, including state governments.
Well,
I mean, the amount, you would know better than me how much money has come in to the state revenue
but
from.
You just gave 2 groups. Nowhere in that did I hear patients in need of relief from conditions.
Because to me, that's a minor thing. Because, again, like I said, in my opinion, that was already covered under the medical marijuana law that we had prior.
There was Marinol, which is about $1,000 prescription just to get out the door, and it's a synthetic marijuana, and it only has 2 of the cannabinoids.
Okay, I'm going to have to look it up, because as I understand, we had a marijuana law that people could already get it by prescription from a doctor, but you had to go to the doctor's office. It had to be administered by a medical professional and so forth. You couldn't grow it yourself.
Right. Marinol was that way.
Right.
Yes.
Now, what I see is it's just willy-nilly. Anybody. I could go down and get a license to grow my 12 plants in my house right now.
Sure.
In fact, I don't even know if I need a license to grow 12 plants in my house. I don't know what the rule, how much I can personally have without any kind of.
If a patient designated you as an essential caregiver, then your caregiver license is free, but it's attached to somebody else. So yes, in that case, you would have been able.
Okay, so other than that, I still an ounce, whatever, is illegal.
Yes, a small amount. It's basically a $400 citation now, is my understanding.
Okay, so basically, I would still need to have someone sign off for me to be able to grow it myself.
Yes.
My 12 plants or whatever. I thought you could do 12 plants regardless.
12, 6 of which could be blooming in flowering stage. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You seem to know a lot about this.
I helped.
You have your 12. You have your 6 blooming.
No, actually, as a mental health advocate who the legislature knows well, I'm going to be doing an interim study here in a couple of weeks, again, on some mental health things. And so I stepped forward. As a Republican, I was putting a lot on the line as president of the Tulsa Republican Assembly. I called in people, not just people benefiting, but people who've had tragic stories, because there are dangers with this medicine. There really are.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to be honest.
I see the dangers. Yeah. I think there was a way to do this other than essentially opening the floodgates, which is what we've seen. I'm not disputing the fact there are people that can truly benefit medically
Good.
from this.
That's
Just like there's people, I think morphine in the time of war. I mean,
absolutely.
morphine, you name opium, whatever. It was useful for people who really needed it.
Right.
The problem is the definition of needed it.
Exactly.
And that has been stretched. And that's
Yes.
my big problem with it. That is my big issue.
Here's the mitigator, though, on that, is we all know how dangerous morphine can get and how easy it is to overdose, kill yourself. Nobody has ever died of an overdose of smoking marijuana. Nobody. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have dangers, because nobody dies from LSD toxicity. They die from jumping off the rooftop. Right. So when you first take marijuana, the first few times, it's truly a psychedelic drug and can create a severe paranoia. And we were talking before the show of a young man who, some of his family, that he blew his brains out in Colorado. First time as an ORU student. Good kid. Friend of my son's. My son used to go snowboarding trips with him. And so, yes, this can be dangerous when you first
What
start
about driving under the influence?
Yeah, well, if you remember Up and Smoke Cheech and Chong, the most common symptom you see is somebody driving too slow. And so cops I've talked to said, we're not concerned about it. In fact, I worked with some people some cops that put on training down in Muskogee out at the airport. They coned it off, and a dispensary owner worked with them. And they had three groups, the drinkers, the texters, and the marijuana. And of those three groups, the marijuana users were the safest. They said texting was just as bad as being drunk.
Yeah, because you're probably that much more careful.
Yes, and I've watched other ones where the problem is they drive too slow. Now, I will attest firsthand. I live not far from 71st in Riverside, and you go up Peoria Avenue, there's a bunch of dispensaries, and I'm telling you, those slow drivers drive me nuts. And there's a lot more of them in the last few years. So that's a real concern for traffic flow, but it's not the danger that alcohol is when you're driving.
Right. No, I can attest to that. I believe that. I believe that. And again, I think it matters how much. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember just a couple of years ago reading statistics on the vehicular accidents and injuries since legalizing marijuana in Colorado, as opposed to and there was a real spike. There was a spike in accidents and so forth. I just have a problem with the way it was handled. Here, okay, let me clarify. To me, if you're going to legalize it, just legalize it. Mm-hmm. Don't use the sham of medical marijuana. This was supposed to have been a medical marijuana bill, but basically, it's everybody. Whosoever will and wants to pay the money, jump through the hoops, whatever, can get a marijuana. Yeah. I remember I was out at Venice Beach in Los Angeles.
Yes, I've been there.
And there was basically a head shop.
Yeah.
They call it a clinic, but it was a head shop. And, if I went in, and I suffer from migraines. Mm-hmm. I could have gone and said, I've got these migraine headaches. Sure. Can you help me out? They could prescribe me, have a guy, right? Oh, yeah, you need marijuana. And, I get my weed and I'm gone and I go get high. I didn't have to prove anything. I have headaches. Yes. I've got some stiffness in my elbow. My back's not like it used to be, whatever. So to me, it's just people just didn't do their job. It's almost like we have gone to the extent of being lax on everything, just lazy. I think it's lazy. I think it was a lazy spirit that has come over America that we don't want to do the hard. Oh, that's too hard. Mm-hmm. Let's find out who really needs this. Okay. Let's write the law like it should be for everybody. Oh, that's too much trouble. Okay. Just write it. Just
let
them
me respond to that. Okay. On this date 90 years ago, marijuana was legal in Oklahoma, and liquor was a federal crime. And a state crime at that. So it's all arbitrary. I mean, what becomes acceptable and taboo? I believe a lot of this was part of our culture war in the 60s and 70s, because as you know, in the late 60s, marijuana usage amongst the hippie generation was really big. And I think it was part of that reaction. It's, boy, get a haircut, get rid of that tie-dye stuff, and have a beer with me instead of smoking your joint. That's what I really believe was part of our attitude against marijuana.
Yeah, I don't know.
I-
For example, I lived in Europe,
Okay.
in Holland, Germany. I've
Yeah.
been to Spain. And their liquor laws are different from ours.
Yes, they are.
If we go to a restaurant, I can have a 5-year-old kid. You know,
Yes.
if I want him to drink my beer, boom, he can drink his beer.
Yes.
You know, whatever. But the attitude is different.
It is.
They don't drink to get drunk.
Right.
Like, what do you hear when you hear, so I'm going to get so drunk, I'm not going to remember anything?
Yes.
Well, that's ridiculous. Why
That's-
would you, how is that fun if you don't remember
No.
what you did, right?
That's what I call the recreational, the one trying to get a thrill.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, the casual user is different from the recreational user. The person who just wants to unwind in the evening, they're not looking. Eddie, you told me a couple weeks ago you got stopped by a cop in Owasso.
Right.
You did stop to get a dinner. You had a beer.
Right.
One beer.
Right.
Okay. You weren't looking for a thrill.
Right.
You were looking for something just kind of helps it.
But,
it's end of the week, right?
But there's one difference between marijuana and beer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't smoke marijuana casually. I smoke marijuana because I want to get high. There's
That's
only one
you.
reason. That's the only. So you're telling me, other than, like you said, the medicinal, you're telling me that there's people that want to casually smoke a joint without getting high. Can you smoke a joint without getting high?
Well, first of all, you don't. When you first begin, marijuana really shocks your system. I would call it, in the early stages of consumption, it is a psychedelic drug. It's that powerful, or at least you should treat it as such. As you smoke it more, you don't get the rush you used to get. You don't get the thrill you used to get.
So what happens?
Well, your body becomes accustomed to it.
Right. So what do? You smoke more.
Depends what you want to do.
What?
If you're looking for the thrill, then yes, you're right. Okay.
But why would somebody sit there and smoke that and go through the trouble without getting high?
I ran into a fella that I used to attend church with regularly, and he had lost 40 pounds. He had severe health issues, joint issues, inflammation, swelling. And I see this guy at a family event. I said, "Man, you look better. What you?" He says, "I got my marijuana card."
Okay. You know what you just did?
What?
You just jumped back to another issue.
No, I'm not. I'm answering your question.
No, you jumped back to the medical issue.
No. Listen, no, I'm not. I'm not.
All right.
And I said, "Tell me what's happening." He said, "I got my marijuana card." I said, "How did that help your condition?" He said, "The biggest thing it did was allow me to get a good night's sleep." He says, "It's amazing how much you gain weight when you don't get enough sleep," and all of his other joint inflammation issues. He said, "I really believe what this is doing is I'm using it as a sleep aid. Not much different from a guy takes a shot of brandy before bedtime. Feels like he's going to sleep better." Is that therapeutic? Yes, it is. Is it casual? You could make that case. It's part of the guy's daily routine. I don't have a problem with that as long as he, number one, isn't exploiting kids, and two, isn't endangering public safety. Beyond that, it's his choice.
Right. But nevertheless, what I'm saying is he still takes it so he can sleep.
Yes.
He's not just because I like the taste of a beer. It doesn't affect me one way or another. Now, if we were talking vodka, that'd be a different animal. Okay, beer to a German and Scandinavian is like coffee to a Dutch or Belgian person. So that's the point I'm trying to make. There's only one reason that you would drink or smoke versus the drinking. There are people who drink just to be sociable. You can have a glass of wine or a beer and it doesn't affect them cognitively. Whereas when you smoke a joint, like you said, the first time it's going to get you off. But usually, I don't know of anybody that's going to just smoke a joint if it's not going to give them a buzz or get them high.
Well, again, a lot of people are taking, and I call this therapeutic because it's a sleep aid. Okay, or any of these things for which I've mentioned, anxiety, pain medication. Listen, my dad was on benzodiazepine tranquilizers my entire childhood. He was a PTSD sufferer from the Korean War. He was addicted to tranquilizers that the VA had put him on and was paying for. I wish my dad had this option. Here's why. When you're going through a panic attack, and many veterans will understand this, if not themselves, some of their Army buddies or military buddies, is that you have to take those benzos as a regular preventative drug all day long. My dad went to one of my sporting events in high school, one, because as soon as he came home from work, he had to take a tranquilizer, and he couldn't hardly do anything. I love my dad. He's a good dad, but he was limited because of it. If I talked to one young Navy officer here, I had him come speak to a bunch of mental health professionals, and he said, I quit all of these, the 900 pills a month that the VA had me on, and he showed us all this whole bag, and he pulled out a little vaporizer, and he said, this has 1 gram of THC. This thing lasts me a month. He says, it costs me $50. I pay for that. He said, the difference is, as soon as I feel an anxiety attack, a panic attack coming on, I take one breath of this, and it arrests it.
Right. But Dave,
yes,
you've done it again.
Okay.
You're back to the medical therapeutic reason for having it.
You're right. You're right.
So
I did.
what I'm trying to, because we're going.
Well, okay. Let me address here the alcohol versus marijuana. I'll tell you why. Alcohol addiction is real. If it's part of if it's part of your family history, there is no physiological addiction to marijuana. Right. I said physiological because there's some people with addictive personalities, and they have to be careful of anything and everything they do. Right. So that's one of the benefits of marijuana over alcohol is, especially if you have a family history or personal history of addiction. So
you're saying just if I want to get high because I want to get high, it's better to do marijuana than alcohol. I mean, that's what that argument sounds like. I mean, it's like versus being a drunk, just be a doper.
Well, I'm a teetotaler, okay? But in high school, I've been drunk and I've been high on marijuana. Personally, I don't like how it feels. I love my sober mind, okay? And a person should default love their sober mind. I'm concerned about the underlying conditions of what drives a person to want to be in an altered state. You need a good mental health counselor if you're in that case.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up because we're over an hour.
Yeah.
I don't think we disagree that there is a therapeutic or a medical need for marijuana, just like there is for morphine, opium, heroin, whatever it might be, which it was originally intended for and was originally used for.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at is the way the laws have been constructed is that they're too lax. They've caused an overuse. And I still also agree that marijuana is a gateway drug. Okay. Now, not for the PTSD sufferer, not for the person that has panic attacks or any of those issues, those psychological issues that it might be a benefit for.
Yeah.
But it is a gateway drug for those who just want a recreational drug, and we have made it too easy to become a recreational drug. Yep. If kids were having problems in getting their parents opioids, there's going to be a bigger problem getting a hold of their parents' weed. I think you're going to see that. And there's all kinds of, like we used to have people go into the liquor store and buy because they were over 20 when they buy it for the kids. Now you're going to have people buying the weed for the kids as well. Yeah. Plus, the marijuana we have today is different from what we had when you and I were teenagers or in college or whatever. It's a lot stronger. It's more powerful. There are medical professionals that say it is addictive, that it's very addictive. It's like cigarettes. It's like nicotine, only more addictive than nicotine. So I've seen those. I don't want to get into all that. Okay. I'm just saying I don't have a problem if we had truly made it a medical marijuana law and kept it at medical and made you jump through major hoops to get it.
Okay.
You had to go to a doctor, a special doctor to get it prescribed, had to go to that doctor, you had to go to a pharmacy behind the counter to get it. Now you just got these head shops, I like to call them, all over the place. Every corner now has a cannabis place, right? Okay. I mean, you can't, one thing, it's helped the real estate market, the commercial real estate market. Yeah. But it's just one of these deals that I get you. Okay. I do understand. There are people that I believe need it, just like there are people that need it. What is it? I don't know, any medicine, okay, or any kind of What's the one dentist used to give to everybody? Now they've limited. Now they've made it tougher to get that. What is? I can't remember the name of it. There's a drug. Every time I went to the dentist, they'd always get drilling or anything done. They would want to prescribe this particular pill,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to help you. Norco, it's
Okay.
called now. I don't remember. Lortabs. It used to be
Oh,
Lortabs.
sure, yeah.
Now it's
Which is
Norco.
an opioid type.
Right, an opioid type. I mean, they were. Oh yeah, we give them 20 of those, 30
Right.
of those. Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
I never took them. I mean, I just take
Sure.
Tylenol, and so I was piling up. I have these bottles of this stuff in my closet or something.
Yes.
But there are people out there that use them 5 at a time. 5 a
Yes.
day, and like you said, like marijuana probably need more and more and more.
Yes.
So, but they've made it stricter to get those.
Yeah.
But now we've loosened the restrictions on marijuana, and that's I don't think we should have done one at the expense of the other.
Let me address, just to wrap up, if you're taking this for a real pain or it's any kind of therapeutic condition, God bless you, glad we got it for you. If you're taking it just as part of your routine, I mentioned sleep, there are some other things, okay, you're not endangering others. If you're taking it for a recreational, for a thrill, for something like that, as you mentioned, get help. There's an underlying condition that you don't like sobriety and you feel the need to do something. You've got a real mental health issue. Get a good counselor.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up with that. David, thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully we've given you some news you can use. Mm-hmm. Look us up. If you want to call me at 918-770-8886, 918-770-8886, and just look for me at Black.Coffee at gmail.com. Black.Coffee at gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
This is my freedom.